I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Ballara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Ballara and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Dr. Jamil Sayegh. Sorry if I'm not saying that appropriately. We'll maybe go with Dr. Jamil just so I don't mess it up too much. But Dr. Jamil is an international life, business, and relationship coach. He's an integrative naturopathic physician and a master NLP practitioner. He's also the author of 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. So a whole lot of interesting stuff there. Dr. Jamil, I would love it if you would maybe kind of tell us your background, where you got started and sort of where your journey has taken you up to this point.
Awesome, Jason. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone is tuning in is doing well. And hopefully by the end of this, you've got something that you didn't have before. So that would be really beautiful. And
yeah,
based on that question, I feel like I can roll with that for the next hours.
There you go. That's perfect.
I'll give a shortened version of it and then we can go back and forth on it.
Okay.
And so a little bit about me, as you mentioned, I'm a life, business, and relationship coach. I'm also a naturopathic physician. And my real passion is to work with leaders and high performers to create an extraordinary life without regret. And when I think about a leader, I don't think about it as a person who's born a certain way. Being a leader is a choice. It's a choice that we make moment to moment, day to day. Do I want to step into a leadership role right now? And a leader to me, it's somebody who wants to make a difference. They want to make an impact, not only for themselves, but for their family, for their company, their community, and depending on the size of their vision, the country, the world, right? And when I think of a high performer, I think of somebody who wants to do and be the best they can at the things that matter most to them. And when I think about those types of people, again, the people who choose to be that, it's not that you are or you're not. And so from that space, they share with me their biggest goals, their biggest dreams, their biggest challenges and problems in all the different areas of their life. And we dive deep in conversation. And I help them see their world differently. And when you see your world differently, you start showing up differently. And you show up as a more powerful, more authentic, more capable version of you. And when you do that, the results that you experience are incredible and your whole life transforms. So I've been really blessed to do that for 16 years now. And it has been literally, I can't imagine serving the world in a more powerful way in my own life. And so that's just been what lights me up more than anything else.
So it's sort of, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, I sort of feel like there's almost two components to what you're doing. The sort of the physician side of things, and then the life coach. Are you still practicing medicine? Is that kind of an intertwined thing? How's that work for you at this point?
It's interesting. I've definitely kind of made my own unique, I guess, situation where I remember being in medical school and I'd been coaching before then. And I still, medicine was still in the back of my mind, something I wanted to do. And I remember in my third year having the insight that, I was working with all these patients and thankfully, they were getting great results. But a lot of what I was doing that was the most enjoyable, the most profound, like the results that were getting the best, outcomes, it didn't really have to do with medicine. It had more to do with the coaching side of it and the psychology side of it and how I was communicating and being with them. And they were getting better. And some of them were recovering from conditions that kind of conventionally we don't think there are cures for. And it was amazing to see. And I recognized in that moment that, my passion has always been coaching and I want to do that full time. And I'm still going to finish the degree. I'm still going to get my license and I'm still going to find a way to use it. I practiced for a time in Arizona. That's where I went to medical school. And then when I moved back to New York, I went full on into my coaching business. And so now it's full-time coaching, but I incorporate health when I can. So as an example, let's say somebody hires me, they're not happy, they're not fulfilled, maybe their business isn't going great, their relationship's not going great, whatever the case may be, we're working on that. But along the way, let's say I find out you've got fatigue and brain fog, and you've got maybe a lot of bloating, and you're not sleeping well, and you just don't feel good in your body. And that's causing you to be less effective in your work, let's say. And I look into a quick, couple questions I might ask you, and we find out you're not sleeping well because let's say you've got a ton environmental kind of like blue light and things of that nature that are messing up your circadian rhythms. Let's say you're dehydrated, you're not eating good quality food, you got a lot of stress in your life, and there's a bunch of other things that could be taking you off track. And so I'll use kind of some general, I've got 12 pillars of health, and I'll use kind of these general principles to get you back into a place where probably 60 to 80% of what you've got going on physically will either improve or may potentially even go away without you necessarily needing medications and things like that. But I think that, whenever somebody needs a physician, I always refer. The people I work with are all my clients. I don't take on patients at this point. And so it's more about using the knowledge that I have medically to help this person just thrive and be in alignment with what it means to be a healthy human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it really kind of points to the fact that it all goes together.
Oh yeah.
So, it's healthy mind, healthy body, and the, the, you kind of can't have one without the other. At least that's how I feel. I mean, exercise and fitness is a big part of my life. And so I know when I am not getting that exercise in terms of my mood and all of that, it's very much impacted.
Mm.
My wife knows that and is happy to make sure that I keep exercising. And so I'm always fascinated by how much those are intertwined, and then, and then almost stacking mindset and that sort of life coaching type of stuff on top of it. And that's something for me that is actually relatively new, kind of realizing the power of that. I think mindset is a big topic in the real estate space. And so it's kind of, as I've dove deeper into that, it's been, remarkable, sort of how you are able to shift that, I guess. So when you're working with your coaching clients and things like that, what do you, maybe give us some of those pillars that you're focusing on, and what you're trying to, what tools do you use to help them kind of achieve that, wellness that you're looking for?
Yeah. And so, like many of my clients are in the real estate space, and they're investors, loan officers, agents, brokers, etc. And when they show up in my world, I think about it like a triangle, and I'll explain that in a second, because you mentioned it's all interconnected, right? It's all you. And so if you think of it like a three-legged stool or like a triangle, there's three sides to it. You've got success, however you define that, whatever that means to you to have a successful life, your career, your finances, all that, happiness. Then you've got your health. That's your mind, your body, your spirit. And then you've got your relationships, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your intimate partner, if there is one, and your relationship professionally, personally, friends, family, things like that. And if you've got the health and the relationships, but you don't have the happiness and the success, that's not a great life. If you've got the business success and the career success and the relationships are going well, but your health is a mess, you can't really enjoy it. And maybe you've got a lot of disease going on. Maybe the quality of life is poor, things of that nature. And maybe you've got the health and you've got the career stuff, but the relationships aren't what you want them to be. And to me, it's like when you have all three dialed in to your own satisfaction, you have what I call an extraordinary life without regret. You've got the health you want, the relationships you want, and the career success that you want, and you're happy. And when you have that type of life, that's really what it's all about for me. So people show up with whatever they show up with, and I always aim to deliver that, but also how could I help them get, all areas of that triangle complete. And so there's a lot of different tools that I'll utilize. It's interesting. The way that I coach is very in the moment. And what I mean by that is, it's like 16 years and various trainings and degrees and certifications and books and all these things. They're all like with me in the moment. And whatever that person needs most is what I'll like kind of call on to bring out. So it's not really like a structured plan. This is what we're going to talk about today without me even talking to you first. You show up with what's on your mind, what's on your heart, what you're dealing with. And that's when we dive in. And so, with the NLP background, there's a lot of beautiful work that I'm able to do with people. So for example, I had a client earlier today, and in order to create a solid foundation for the work, because typically I work with people for 6 months or for a year, but prior to that, we do this release work. And the release work, it takes anywhere from like 5 to 20 hours to do. Everyone's different because they all have different amounts of things to be released. But essentially, imagine there you are, 25, 35. I had a client of mine, he's a real estate investor, and he had a tragedy happen in his life 25 years ago. Ever since then, he hasn't been the same. Ever since then, he's had a lot of emotional challenges and it's affected his life. by doing the release work first, he was free of that. The thing obviously still happened. It was in his past, but it didn't have ownership of him anymore. And because he was free of it, his whole life opened up. And then during the 6 months following that we worked together, he was a whole different guy. And it was a really beautiful experience. And so, excuse me, when you ask for tools, first and foremost, getting people clear on what's been holding them back from their past. For example, it could be emotions, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, things of that nature. But the cool thing is, depending on how people receive this, I've seen this work for things that are passed down generationally. I've seen this work for past lives. And I didn't believe in that when I got trained in this. And it was fascinating to me how, when it was done with me, and I was the client, and when I've done it with others over the years, the amount of times people will say, yeah, I don't really believe in that. I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to. And then they tell me that the thing that we're working on releasing is actually from a past life, and they don't even know what it is. They release it, and it's like the weight of the world's off their chest. Like there's like tears coming out. They feel lighter. They go, I don't even know what that was, but I feel amazing right now. And who's to say what that is? I'm not pretending to know, but it's truly incredible to me to see when I can help someone be free of everything that's happened that doesn't serve them up until this moment. And then from this moment, when they're free of that, being able to build whatever it is they want, that to me has led to long-term results. It's led to people not ever falling back into it. And it's a permanent transformation. And that's been truly an exceptional experience. And so I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. I think I often have wondered, and maybe to an extent you sort of answered the question I was going to ask, but basically with things like life coaching and that sort of mindset space, I sometimes wonder when people go to a life coach to do that work, do you feel that they sort of already bought in? Because there is a lot of resistance in the world to, sort of the power of mindset and things like that. And I mean, truthfully, like 2 years ago, I was probably one of those people that would have thought that that's silly, like that stuff doesn't work. But I really have, when I let myself kind of try it out and experiment with things that, were mindset related, I really noticed an effect both on, from a mental and physical standpoint. And so do your clients, do you feel that they come in with, they're sort of already open to it, or do you feel like sometimes they're don't believe that it's going to work? Or I guess, and maybe you get all types, but I'm interested if there's some bias to it, in the sense that someone who goes to a mindset coach already believes that they can have their mindset coached. You know what I mean? But I think even if you believe it, you probably don't know the extent. So I'm just curious, how do you see your clients coming in what state of mind?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And so it's like, I don't identify as a mindset coach, but it is obviously an aspect of the work for sure. I think that because of the nature of, and this applies to anybody who's in like kind of that a service kind of industry space, because my clients come to me, there is obviously some degree of, I want help and I'm ready for help, and I think you might be able to help me. So there is, in that sense, some buy-in. I've definitely had people that were referred to me and they didn't even know why. Their friend just said, you got to talk to this guy. So that when I'm talking to them and I say, so what did so-and-so tell you about me? Or like, what do you know going into this conversation? Yeah. And they're like, I don't know anything. Sometimes they do have some, resistance, if you want to call it that. And I'm not in the game of forcing anyone, to work with me. And so when I'm in a conversation with somebody, I always have the first one or two conversations are on me, and it's a gift. And this is just, are we a good fit? Can I actually support you? Can I help you in what it is that you want help with? Have I done that before? Am I open to that? Do we both want to do this work together? It's got to be that desire. Yeah. If you don't want to be helped, can't help you. If you don't want my help, I shouldn't be the one to help you. And it's like, well, so when people are open to it and we have our conversation and they get a sense of, can I help them? Because when I'm on a conversation with somebody, I'm not trying to sell them on what I could do for them in the future. Like the conversation is, how can I help you in this moment right now? How can I help you in this conversation? And at the end of it, when you see things that you didn't see before, when you realize, wow, I never thought of it like that. When you realize there's this thing that was causing so much problems, and by the end of the conversation, it's not a problem anymore. Then the question becomes, are you complete? Are you done? Or do you want to keep, doing this type of work? And, the right person is the right fit will say, this was amazing. How do I get more of this? And at that point, they're committed, I'm committed, and we make some magic happen for them. But I definitely think, as you said, I think a lot of people have resistance to the phrase life coach because it carries with it, depending on how it's interpreted, because it could be interpreted in different ways. But some people think, oh yeah, that's like the 18-year-old that's going to tell me about how to live my life, and then but you're like 40 or 50 or 60 and you're sitting there going, the hell is this kid going to tell me about my life? And that's how a lot of people receive it. And that's why for a while I didn't call myself a life coach, because that carried with it something that I didn't like the association to, because to me it was, I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm helping you see what you're not seeing. In the same way that when you're driving a car, there's like, you have the blind spot. And it's that thing that you have a hard time seeing. That's why you have the mirror. But even then, you kind of have to lean in to really see it. You're too close to your own stuff. And so life happens in a certain way, however it's happening. You interpret it based on years of conditioning, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about life, what you believe about other people, and then you experience your interpretation. The challenge is you think your interpretation's real. And so because you think your interpretation's real and it feels real, it's real in your experience. So your experience is justified, it's valid. It's not like, don't feel that way. You feel what you feel and it's completely legitimate. It's just that what if your interpretation isn't accurate? What if, oh, you think mom did this when I was 4 for these reasons, and you've lived with that your whole life? What if you're wrong? And if you're wrong, that changes everything. All of a sudden, you don't act the same way around mom. You don't treat her the same way. Maybe she's not around anymore, but the relief you have, forgiveness that you experience, it lets you go. And that's just it releases you from it, rather. But that's just an example of, so often people think, what do life coaches do? And they think, oh, you just tell me how to live my life. And I think that there probably are some coaches who do that. I wouldn't call that coaching. I would call that more probably like consulting, where it's, you're kind of hiring someone to give you feedback and tell you what to do. I think in general, coaching, sit with people, love them deeper than, I don't even have to know you. I can sit with you and love you as a fellow brother and sister on this journey of life, who's experiencing hardships and challenges just like everybody else, who's trying to do the best they can and is just figuring things out. And from that space, how do you see your world? What's going on? What are your challenges? What are your problems? What are your dreams? Why don't you have them yet? And then you tell me all the reasons why, you don't have what you want. Now you believe those reasons. That's why you don't have it yet. But I don't. And so because I'm that objective listener, I can be with you and say, oh, wow, I see exactly how he's holding himself back. Oh, wow, he's telling himself this story and he's living into it as if it's true. And that's why he's suffering. That's why he's stressed out. That's why he's this. That's why he's that. But what if that wasn't true? And all of a sudden, at the end of every conversation, the person's like, wow, it's so incredible to me when somebody has what they consider to be a problem. And in one conversation, it could even be in minutes, not even like a full hour, it's gone. Problem's gone. It's not in their life anymore. And they sit there and they go, how is it that I've had that problem for years and it's gone right now and it's only been 20 minutes? And it's because in a way, the problem was never real to begin with. The problem was a mental construct. Yeah. And so if we want to call that mindset, how you see your world, let's say, then yes, I'm a mindset coach. But if it's not like a motivation, pump up, that kind of thing, right. At times that could be an aspect of it. I see you really getting in your way and maybe you're not hearing what I'm trying to share. I might lovingly be direct with you and share something from my heart to yours. It might be motivational, inspirational, but that's not like what I set out to do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I think probably there's some, and it's a misconception, but there's probably some feeling of, well, if I get a life coach, it's because I've screwed up my life. Like it's like you're effectively admitting that your life's not perfect, which nobody's life is perfect. So it's not necessarily about that, right? It's more about maximizing the good, minimizing the bad, and sort of, like you're saying, like allowing people to see almost just a different perspective than like of an objective observer of your life and what you've turned some of those experiences into in your mind. Because that's ultimately, right? Where what happens, whatever happened, it's like I said, like 4 years old and mom did something and I'm like, oh, that must have been because of this. And it may have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and it's like, 4, 12, 27, 36, like it's nonstop. We're doing it all the time. There's a distinction I share with clients. There's a difference between what happened and your story about what happened.
Yeah.
Those aren't the same thing. And we don't live into what happened. We live into our story about what happens.
Mhm.
And if our story serves us and it's useful, great.
Yeah.
You're living into it. It's making your life better. Awesome. But very often we have a story that's not serving us and it's causing a lot of challenges for us. And to your point, a lot of times people think, and this is not only in coaching, this is in therapy, this is in anything. People think, or many people think, not everybody, but many people think, if I ask for help, that's somehow a sign of like weakness, or that's somehow a sign of I can't figure it out myself. So now I need to have some other guy or girl, quote unquote, tell me what to do, fix me,
Right.
whatever the case
Right.
might be.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't believe in the fix me thing because I don't think you're broken. I think you're whole, perfect, and complete. I just think you don't see that. And if I can help you see that, a lot of things shift for you. But when it comes to coaching, what I find interesting, when you look at the people that are the highest performers in any industry, whether it's in business, whether it's in athletics, whether it's in, like theater and TV shows and things like that, they all have coaches.
Yep.
And it's not, why is it that LeBron James or Tiger Woods or your chosen athlete of choice who you enjoy watching, why do they have multiple coaches for like different areas of their life? It's not because they can't do it themselves. And, LeBron is a better basketball player than his coach. So why would he look to his coach? Because the coach sees things that LeBron doesn't see.
Yeah.
The coach is able to point things out. For me, coaching is a way to get further faster. It's like if you could do it on your own in 10 years, but you could hire me and do it in 10 months. I mean, you can do it in 10 years, but like why, like your most precious commodity really is time. And so you never know how much you're going to get. And, every day, 150,000 people don't wake up. And you woke up, you're not one of them. But that's not a guarantee for tomorrow. It's not a guarantee for a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. We all have people in our lives that maybe from our own perspective, their time came earlier than we would have liked. And from that space, if like Steve Jobs has a quote in his commencement speech at Stanford, every day I wake up and I look myself in the mirror and I ask, if today was my last day on this earth, would I want to do what I'm about to do? And if the answer is no, too many days in a row, I'm going to do something about that. And then he also says, if you live every day as if it's your last, one day you will surely be right. Same kind of idea. You might not have 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 80 years, however old you are that you're listening to this. And so whatever you want, what if you were to invest your time, your energy, your finances, who you are into something that will help you get where you want to be faster. It'll help you solve your problems. I think it was Woody Allen who said it, but learn from the mistakes of others because you'll never live long enough to make them all yourself. And it's like from that space, at least for me, we all have our thing. We all have what we enjoy. We all have what we spend our time doing, our hobbies, things of that nature. For 16 years now, practically 6 to 10 hours a day on average, my obsession is studying human beings, is studying what makes people tick, what makes successful people successful, what makes the people who get in their own way and they're not as successful as they want to be, what makes that happen? What makes relationships thrive and what makes them fall apart? What makes people experience happiness, joy, fulfillment, and peace? And what ruins that for them? So on top of my own story, life experiences, things of that nature, there's all of the different things that I've studied and learned so that my clients don't have to. It's like, they don't have to spend the 10 years that I did because I did it for them, or the 16 years that I did rather. And so, yeah, like that's how I view coaching. It's just a way of having two minds instead of just you. Look at your life and having a partner whose sole purpose is to help you win. Other people in your life, they've got their own agenda. They've got things that they want and, they want to win too. But when people hire me, my full focus is on how do I help this person win? How do I help this person create the life that they want? How do I help this person make their dream come true? How do I help this person see what they're not seeing so that that problem that they've been living into so strongly dissolves? Because again, it's how we see the world that creates our experience of a problem.
Yeah.
So when you see differently, I think it was Wayne Dyer, who said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's a different perspective. And so, yeah, like that's how I look at coaching and why I see it's valuable. And I think when people operate from the space of I should be able to do it all on my own, again, you can more than likely, but why the need to? What are you trying to prove to you or to like, I can do it on my own, I don't need help? Just on average, you're going to be a lot less successful that way. You're not going to get, it'll take you a lot longer to get where you're going. And again, if you want to do that and have that pride at the end of the day that I did it on my own, cool. But you could have served more people, had a bigger impact. You could have, created that dream a lot sooner. And I just look at it as if I could check my ego at the door and see what excites me right now, what would be amazing. And if I could have someone as a partner, like a co-creation partner on this journey for a certain period of time to help me get where I'm going. It's like you see all the different movies, growing up, like I was into a lot of the fantasy stuff. So you see the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potters and the Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. And you got your Gandalfs and your Dumbledores and you got all these people that kind of serve as guides to the main character. My clients are the hero of their own journey. I get to be one of the guides, one of the stepping stones on their journey to help them bridge the gap, like the where they are to where they want to be kind of thing. And yeah, I just find that very beautiful and impactful. And when people are open to it, it's a perfect match. And when they're not, that's beautiful too. They don't need to get help from me. The help will come whenever they're ready for it, and it'll come with whoever they're exposed to at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that with the coaching that it's also a level of accountability that provides? And the reason I ask that, I think for me in going to the gym, I like having a trainer because I make an appointment with my trainer and I have that appointment. I'm going to go to the appointment. It's like you said, it's not that I can't go to the gym on my own and work out on my own, but what the having a coach, a trainer, whatever you want, it's accountability. It's like, okay, I have this appointment. Well, I'm not going to blow off my appointment, despite the fact that maybe I'm busy doing other things. And so even with life coaching, it's like you said, people saying I'm going to do this on my own, you probably won't, right? In reality, you probably won't do it on your own. You'll probably do it a little bit and then get distracted, and you know what I mean? So I feel like to some extent, the accountability, yes, you have to want it, but having that other person that not only is providing that outsider input, but it's like, now that person's expecting me to show up and do this work. I think, and maybe that's me, maybe that's me needing that and not everybody does, but I like that sort of accountability factor.
Yeah, no, accountability definitely plays a part. I think that, I often tell people there's three different types of accountability. You've got personal accountability, and this is the kind of accountability like you just said. Well, I want to do that. I'm going to do that on Tuesday, right? But you wake up Tuesday morning and you said you were going to go to the gym or go for a run or do something, and you don't feel like it, right? And so it's easy to not do it. I find that the number one person we break our promises to is ourselves. And so the number one person you break your word to, break your promises to, is you. And so a big aspect of the work is, how can I help you live in integrity? How can I help you honor your word, honor your commitments, and be your word? Not only with yourself, but with your spouse, with your business people, with your team, with whatever the case may be. If I can't count on you, I being anybody in your world, then like your word's kind of useless. And that makes you less powerful as a human being, as an individual. It's not as workable. And so when it comes to accountability, again, number one is self-accountability. Some people can do that, no issue. Some people can do it, but they prefer to have a partner. And some people have a really hard time doing it. Either way, it's just having that self-awareness to see, I've been self-accountable for X amount of years. How's it going? If I'm crushing it, my dreams are coming true, everything's going great, then I'm probably doing really well. I think you'd still benefit from having another set of eyes. At the same time, you're doing great. The second level of accountability would be like a coach. Somebody else, again, another set of eyes on your situation. So it's not just you. It's like two minds better than one kind of thing. The third level of accountability is more peer accountability. As an example, you decide, I want to work out every day, as an example, every day this week. And I think I might back out on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to the 10 people that I respect most in this world. And I'm going to tell them, every night I'm going to send you a text message this week just saying done. And if there's any point where I don't send that to you, then I'm going to do A, B, and C, like there's a consequence, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, now I've got 10 people who I really respect, who I don't want them to think like less of me. And so now when I wake up and maybe I don't really feel like it, there's that, oh, well, people are counting on me, and then you can do that with your family. You can do that. Oh, I have a daughter, I have a son, they're counting on me. I have a spouse, like they need this. Like when you make it bigger than just you, it's amazing, what you're capable of. Most people do far more for others than they're willing to do for just themselves. And so, yeah, I think accountability absolutely plays a role in the work, just keeping people on track. And again, not holding them to the fire in like any negative way, but holding them to the fire of, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. Let's talk about that. And if it's one thing if you didn't do it because you don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. That's great. It's something else if you didn't do it because of some fear and excuse and justification that you made up. Because there's that expression, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And that really stems from, who are you being? How do you show up in the world? Now, that version of you that you're being, you bring to all these different areas of your life. So if you're the guy who's got an office that is completely trashed and it's a mess, your car probably looks similar. Your mindset is probably similar. Your relationship is probably similar. You probably have, your health is probably similar. But if you're someone who's maybe, you're really organized and you're meticulous and all this different detail, that probably shows up too in the way you do your health and the way you do everything else. And so I think the accountability of just helping people live the life they want to live. And sometimes we show up from the space of, I want to do it, but I'm afraid and I'm waiting until the fear goes away. Instead of realizing, courage doesn't mean you're fearless. Courage means you're afraid, but you do it anyway, either because it's something that matters more to you than the fear, or you're more afraid of what happens if you don't do it, right? And so from that space, it's like, all right, are you living the life you want to be living? If the answer is yes, you're winning. Keep doing it. Excuse me. If the answer is no, then why not? What is the story you tell yourself about why you can't have what you want? And this is where the accountability comes in. There's that expression, argue for your limitations and you get to keep them. We each are basically casting spells over our life. It's like, and from that space, what are you putting out there? Are you putting out there the perpetuation of your current situation? And then you keep living into it. And then you wonder why life doesn't change. Life doesn't change because it doesn't. You do. There's that expression like, life doesn't get easier, you get better. Yeah. If you try some type of sport for the first time, and then 5 years later, you're an expert at it, the sport didn't get easier. Sport didn't change at all. You got better. And it's that same kind of way. How are you showing up and having that person kind of cheering you on, believing in you more than maybe you might believe in yourself? And the amount of people who have told me that that has been such a gift to them, to have someone who sees them in such a high esteem and somebody who holds them in such a high standard that they don't want to let me down. And so they live up to it, and then their life improves across the board.
Yeah. I never really thought about accountability. I'm a big fan of accountability, but I had never thought about it in sort of those three components. So I actually really love the way you broke that down. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something in there that actually I think is a little bit of a good segue, in that you said, sort of what, as part of accountability, it's like, what is that thing that's pushing you to do whatever you're trying to achieve? And the name of the podcast is Know Your Why. And so I think that plays a big part in all of this. It's like, there needs to be something bigger than yourself so that you will push through those things. And you said that sort of group accountability, well, that might be to your family, and you've got kids or a wife or a husband or whatever it is, whatever your family is, you'll achieve more for them than you might if you just thought, oh, it's just me, I don't. So it brings it just really hits because I feel like the why is so important. It really sort of hits it for me. So maybe I'll just go ahead and ask you, what is your why? What drives you at this point in your life?
Yeah. I also agree with you. I think that, knowing your why it can be so important and so immensely helpful. And I'll share mine. And so thank you for asking. And so for me, kind of to make a long story relatively short. When I was 19, my dad had a brain aneurysm. And for anyone who's not aware of what that is, imagine one of the blood vessels in the brain, think of it like a tube, and imagine it starts to kind of balloon out. And then if you're fortunate, you have a really bad headache, probably one of the worst headaches of your life. And you go to the hospital, and if they catch it in time, they take care of it, and you're okay. My dad wasn't as fortunate, and his aneurysm ruptured. And when it ruptured, he was in a 4-hour brain surgery, and we were told that it was the worst aneurysm the surgeon had ever seen, and that he likely wouldn't survive, probably less than 5% survival chance. And if he did survive, he'd never wake up. And in those 4 hours, I I was doing what I could to be strong for my mom, my sister. I was 19, my dad was 49. And there was a lot of hope, a lot of like, I'm hoping this works out, prayers, all of these things. And walk into the room. He survived the surgery, and already a miracle, but he's in a coma. And we're being told he's in this critical space and he could die at any moment. And in that moment, I had these two emotions. I had the sense of helplessness, that I'm looking at this man who is my dad. He's like the epitome of what it was to be a man for me. And he's laying there more helpless than I've ever seen anyone, looking like a truck hit him. And the second emotion was regret. There was this profound regret that I didn't know my dad the way that I could have, that I had taken our relationship for granted, that I assumed he was always going to be there, or at least he'd be there until he was like 80 or 90 or older. And because of that assumption, I looked back. Just it was like it all happened quick. I walk into the room, I see him, and as I'm just with him, I'm seeing all the missed opportunities. I'm seeing all the things that I didn't take advantage of. And he survived another 3 years before he passed away. And in those 3 years, I took several years off after college to be one of his primary caregivers. And in those 3 years, we helped him make almost a full recovery. And it was amazing. He came out of the coma. He wasn't the same, obviously, but he was a lot closer than he was, and I had some of my highest highs and my lowest lows. I had beautiful moments of, he was a musician and I love to sing and he loves to sing, and we would do music together. We would spend time, we would talk. We'd spend like 10, 15 hours a day some days. And I had my prayers answered in that sense. I got to spend time with him and really get to know him. And he became one of my best friends. And at the same time, I had some really low lows. He was prone to seizures after his aneurysm. He would have 2-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute seizures in my arms when the phone is across the room. And I didn't have any medical background at the time. And I thought he was like, dying. I had no idea what was going on. And moments where he had short-term memory loss and he forgot who I was. And I'm arguing with him that I'm not his nephew. And I remember there's a lot of dark, but also a lot of light. And throughout that experience, I continued to coach people. I continued to study and learn, and really started to mature and see life differently, and saw the miracle of each day and each moment. I mentioned earlier, every day, 150,000 people didn't wake up. And you woke up if you're listening to this. And if you're real fortunate, maybe the people that you care most about, maybe they woke up too. And even if it was just you, like you hit the lotto right from the get-go. But most of us live our life from the perspective that waking up is a given. Like, being alive, that's a given. We take it for granted, not knowing that that's a big deal. Like, that's the best thing that could happen to you. And it did. And so I stopped taking it for granted. And I started realizing every day, I went to bed wondering, is that the last time I'm going to see my dad? And then I woke up in the morning thinking, was that all a dream? And it was like this interesting limbo space that I was in for a while. And every day, I got to see my dad, and I'm like, I don't know if he's going to be here tomorrow. I'm really going to connect with this man. But that bled over into my relationship with my mom, my sister, my friends, my clients, and I really started valuing life. And after 3 years, my dad passed away. And I remember being at his wake, and it was a 5-hour wake, and over 7,000 people came. And my dad was a family practice physician, and he was also one of the top 3 Elvis impersonators in the world. Music was his life. He was all county, all state drummer when he was growing up. And, music was such a big part of our life. And all these people came in, patients, musicians, people I'd never met before. I shook every single person's hand, and almost everyone said, your dad saved my life. And he was 53 when he passed away. And most of them hadn't seen him since he was 49 or younger. And I just felt this immense, I was humbled because it was like, wow, like what an impact he had on the world. But also, I had recognized in that moment that I was playing small, that I was robbing the world of my light because I was afraid of rejection, that I was afraid of really being me, because what if I wasn't accepted? What if you didn't like me? What if whatever, all the what ifs. And I saw how in those 3 years that I was taking care of my dad, two of my cousins passed away, and one was 20 and one was 21. And if you were to ask either of those men when they were, let's say, 18 or 19, tell me about your life, like in terms of what you have planned, promise you neither one would say I'd be dead in 3 to 4 years. And from that space, you know, none of us would obviously plan for that, but it could happen. So then the question becomes, do you love your life? Are you doing, are you building a life that you can be proud of? Are you building a life that you love, or are you building a life that you're going to regret later? Because maybe you're living somebody else's version of your life, what society or family or whatever says you're supposed to do, versus what your heart and soul are calling you towards. And I met so many people throughout those 3 years taking care of my dad, and in the 9 years since then, who from every age range, people who are 70, 80, 90, who look at me with this sense of regret in their eyes as they tell me a story about their life. And there's a lot of, I wish I did this, I should have done that, things of that nature. Then there's people who were in their teenage years, 20s, 30s, 40s. And these people are telling me either I don't know what I want to do and I'm doing something I don't like, or it's like I'm doing something I don't like, but I've been doing it for a while and it's kind of too late to change. So I might as well stay in it until I retire. So they're taking a big gamble that A, they're going to survive till retirement, and B, that they're going to have enough time after to enjoy their life. Yeah. And then there's that middle, like 40, 50, 60. And again, those people, as long as you're alive, you have an opportunity to do something. Like you can always pivot, you can always do it differently, you can always change. It's only the story you have in your head that you're convincing yourself about why you can't. And I see all these people that are living a life they would regret. And that's why when we started, I mentioned my mission, my purpose is to help people live an extraordinary life on their own terms without regret. It's because that feeling that I had when I looked at my dad in that hospital room, I never want anyone to have to experience that. But not just in terms of like with a loved one, but with their life. And I've just seen so much of that, and I want to do something about that. And so just getting to people that I've worked with over the years, getting to see them turn around, getting to see these beautiful messages of appreciation and gratitude that they send to me, very often it just brings tears to my eyes because it helps me see that not only I am shining my light, I am living my life in such a way that I can be proud of, that I love. Like, I don't plan on retiring. I want to do this forever. And obviously, people can say that, and who knows what's going to happen. But like that to me, I'm choosing to live my life in such a way that if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. And it's like, I wish that the people that I spend time with can say the same. And if I can be a part of that, so that when you get to the end of your day and your head hits the pillow, if you were told, by the way, you're not going to wake up tomorrow, could you look at your life and say, what a ride? Like, could you look at your life and say, wow, there was a lot of things that I wanted to do. And, the people that I love know how much I love them. Like the things that I do them because they resonate with my spirit, with my soul. Like I love it. And I'm making an impact. I have a purpose. I'm making an impact. I'm making a difference. And if you can say that, you'd be able to fall asleep peacefully. Or would you be sitting up the whole night worried because I'm not ready to die? And what I find is that most people are afraid of dying because they haven't really lived. They're afraid of dying because there's this awareness. I've been playing small. I'm not living up to my full potential. Like if full potential is a 10, I'm playing at a 3. And I'm calling it a 6 to make myself feel better. So it's like I'm living at a 3. And why is it that so many people have like a near-death experience, health scare, something like that, and they change their whole life after that? Because they finally recognize like they're gonna die. They finally recognize that they're not immortal, physically at least. And from that space, in Buddhism, there are some monks that they put a skull next to their bed. And it's a way of reminding them that, death is inevitable, but in a positive way, in the same way that there's like that phrase, memento mori, like remember death. Because when you remember death, when you know it's coming, when you know it's a part of life, there's nothing wrong with it. When you know it's a part of the experience, the fear of death dies in you. And when the fear dies in you, you can truly live. But when you're living in fear, you're not really living to begin with. And so to me, it's like, how can I help people really live? How can I help people become alive again? That's why I do what I do. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a thank you for sharing that story. I mean, I'm sure that was a very difficult time, but it sounds like you've kind of made the very best out of it. So that's phenomenal, and having that perspective, I think, probably makes you a very good life coach, and being able to, sort of see what you might be wasting, which is time. It's the only thing we can't make more of. So it's kind of a very powerful, sort of impactful story to have, to really, I guess, shine a light on that point. Um,
Thank you, Jason.
if people want to reach out to you, they're looking for coaching, they just want to say hi, what's the best way to reach out to you? We can get it in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. And so if somebody is interested first in just saying hi, I'm on Facebook on my name, just Jamil Sayegh. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Jamil Sayegh. And feel free to give me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you want to share something that impacted you from what you heard here today, maybe an insight that you had, something you were inspired to do. I'm always open to hearing that, cheering you on from a distance, and that's wonderful. If you're interested in content, different podcasts like this, videos. I probably have about 500 or so videos, different pieces of content from over the years that you could find on my Instagram, on my Facebook. Also, my website is jamilsayegh.com. A lot of videos are on there, blog posts, things that you can just turn your life around from that. If you just wanted to just consume some content, that's wonderful. If you're interested in getting a copy of my book, you can get a free PDF of that on my website of 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. I wanted to make that a really easy, actionable, practical source, a guide that is not something that you have an excuse not to do. So for example, the 400-page book could be amazing. Most people aren't going to read that. But if I have like a 70-page book and every chapter is like 1 to 3 pages, that's a little more manageable. In 5 minutes, you can get 2 or 3 chapters in, and maybe you read all of it in an hour. Maybe you spread it out. But either way, if you're feeling stuck, if you're wanting some momentum in your life, that's why I made that. It's a way to get you kind of from 0 to 60, like get you started. And so that's available. There's also an audiobook version for a couple bucks. It's on the website as well. And if anyone's interested in having a conversation, if something resonated here, if you think that, I'm ready to get some support. If you think that I do have some dream or goal that I'd like to get faster, or I've got a challenge that has been bothering me for a while, and if I can get some support, whether it's in my relationship, my business, whatever it is, you can find the link for that on my website. It's also in the show notes, like Jason said. And I'd love to be in conversation with you. And on that call, it's no pressure. On that call, it's really just you and me get to know each other. We have a great conversation. You share with me what you want. If I can support you, we talk about that. And then at the end, if it feels good, we move forward. And if it doesn't, we part ways, and we had a great conversation. And so that's pretty much what I can offer personally. And when it comes to any men who might be listening, me and 2 friends of mine, we have a men's empowerment mastermind group. And that's been something really incredible too. It's called Liberating Man. And so if you want to join the free Facebook group, you can find it. There's tons of content in there. The content itself, phenomenal. And if you want extra support, we have like a paid mastermind as well. But at least the free group, if you're a guy and you're looking for a band of brothers, you're a guy who wants help creating, contributing to other people, this might be the group for you. And feel free to check it out. And if you apply, I'll approve you. And then looking forward to seeing you in there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the show today. I mean, everything that you shared, I think, was incredibly insightful. I think, I hope that you'll have a lot of people reaching out to you, because I think probably we could all use a little bit of life coaching. It's just to get better, get faster, I think would be very helpful. So again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you. And thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.